Welcome into CMS Connected. I'm your co-host, Butch Stearns. This is the web content management industry's only news commentary show. And for today's episode, let's get right to it. We're talking marketing automation. We'll get deeper into it, what it is, what it should mean to you, what you want to know about it, marketing automation, and specifically how your organization can harness the power and the flexibility of automation in order to execute better campaigns and generate more revenue with less manual effort. I mentioned I am the co-host of the show because it's equally billed. We have the award-winning, we've won so many awards on this show, I don't know where to begin. Scott Lewer from Digital Clarity Group.
It's ridiculous. I think we should just start posting them up here behind.
It's a good point.
Yeah, we should.
I think, could we hang them up on this behind there somewhere? How you doing,
do
Scott?
I'm good, man. I had a great turkey day.
Good for you.
Ate a lot.
Yeah, we all did, didn't we?
Suit's a little bit tight today.
Yeah.
But that's how it goes.
Marketing automation, quick comment on why you're excited about talking about this on today's show.
I think marketing automation generally is something that a lot of folks are looking to because it gets to the essence of why even do content management in the first place. It's so that you can communicate with your audience. And the whole idea of marketing automation is being able to communicate with them through a number of different channels and be able to have this organization around your messaging, organizing those so that you are having a much more kind of tailored conversation that takes you from one step to another. And hopefully,
and the simple term automation, that there's an automated process to it, so it's functioning efficiently and to scale, right?
Yeah.
Ideally?
I don't think you want to take the human element out of it, but to the degree that the kind of mundaneness of it can go away and be automated is great, but the essence then becomes a focus on the content and the messaging you're giving, right?
And if you're new to CMS Connected, let me tell you what we have coming up in this show, like we do in all other shows. Scott and I will be here to shepherd you through the latest that's going on in the CMS world. We also have a cast of characters contributing to today's show. Thom Robbins, Chief Evangelist from Kentico, is on today's show. Ben Vallack from a company called SetSeed CMS is going to be joining us. And Marianne, Web Content Management Strategist, Analyst, and Consultant from Digital Clarity Group, will also be Skyping in for today's show. She'll be reviewing WordPress in our Spotlight segment. And of course, we have another segment of Rapid Fire, backed by your request. We put Scott on the clock. But first, let's pay tribute and homage to our sponsors of CMS Connected, Falcon Software. People at Falcon Software can provide you with the expert advice and integration solutions for all your creative web design, web content management, e-commerce, social, or mobile needs. Check out Falcon Software. And Digital Clarity Group, DCG, a research and advisory firm focused on navigating organizations through the digital transformation process. And I would also like to recommend, as you're watching this and looking at Digital Clarity Group and Falcon Software, that right below us where you're watching this show live or on demand, you can download the white paper on understanding the ROI of marketing automation. Again, it's located right at the bottom of your screen. So we start the show each week with 5 top news stories in the industry. Are you ready, Scott?
I am ready.
All right, let's start with story number 1, titled Sitecore Buying Commerce Server. Now, on November 20th, Sitecore announced it has acquired CommerceServer.net, laying the foundation for the industry's first .NET-based enterprise-grade customer experience management platform with a native, fully integrated e-commerce engine. Is this a big deal? And if so, why?
I think it is a big deal. It's a big deal for a couple of reasons. Number one, Sitecore is definitely one of the kind of more forward-thinking web content management, now customer experience platforms that are out there. I think the significance of this is we're starting to add commerce into that equation. I should say not starting to. There certainly have been others, contrary to what they put on the headline there where they said the first .NET. It's actually what they called, I think the term that they use is first enterprise grade. And I think Thom Robbins later from Kentico might have an issue with that, as there are a number of other .NET customer experience solutions that also have commerce in them. But it certainly still is significant because we see these worlds coming together where they definitely should, content and commerce coming together.
So it says, one of the claims with this merger, or them acquiring them, is that it allows marketers to truly own the customer experience they deliver to every customer. It puts customers at the heart of every customer interaction and customer engagement. My next question to you was going to be, why should we care? Is that the reason we should care?
I think we should care. Sitecore is well known for its ability to personalize content and create these personalized interactions. And so being able to take that over from just a kind of world where you're trying to create a relevant experience of content that is important to a site visitor, you want to be able to translate that also into their commerce experience so that we can personalize and tailor those commerce experiences as well and create that buying experience and make that even that much more relevant for them. Right?
So Sitecore CEO Michael Seifert,
Yep.
Let me read you a quote from him from this story on PR Newswire. Well, it's a press release. Where he says, our vision from the beginning has been to deliver a complete connected experience platform that puts the customer, as I said, at the heart of every interaction and engagement. He goes on to say, with this acquisition, our customers can now add enterprise scale e-commerce capabilities to create truly consistent and personalized experiences.
Yeah, I think, so he's right in that. First of all, just to give a quick little plug, we did about a 30-minute webinar, Tim Walters and I, who's from my team, so you can find that on digitalclaritygroup.com. We did that last week, and it's up there so you can listen to our thoughts in more detail there. But I think this
specifically about this news.
Specifically about Sitecore buying Commerce Server.
Okay.
Yep. So Commerce Server, I think what this does is it puts some pressure, pretty significant pressure. Sitecore is always kind of pushing the innovation curve, right? So this puts a lot of pressure on the Adobes, the SDLs who don't have a commerce play today, right? I think you might continue to see some acquisitions as we have of late. It also puts, one thing that we know that Sitecore does really well is that they've created a very, up until this time, their stack has been pretty naturally developed. They've developed almost everything from scratch. So they have not created their suite based on a bunch of acquisitions. So we're going to have to see how Sitecore does at actually integrating a third-party tool. I wouldn't say Commerce Server, previously was a leading platform in the commerce space. It kind of had notably fallen behind a number of the other ones, but I actually think that's a good thing. What Tim and I talked about on our webinar was that's actually a fairly good thing, because now when it comes time to integration, if you had two very leading pieces that you had to try to figure out how to fit together, you might have some challenges with that. But I think R&D will be fully focused on leveraging the team that Commerce Server brings. Is a really good team of about 20-odd people that will be incorporated into the Sitecore R&D team, and basically leveraging their knowledge and know-how to actually build onto the Sitecore platform itself to create a really good unified experience.
So again, if you go to digitalclaritygroup.com, Scott Lewer has a very specific webinar that he and Tim Walters did that you can check out specifically on Sitecore buying Commerce Server. So let's finish up with a couple of, you just did this a little bit talking about the industry implications. What about Sitecore customers? What is this going to mean for Sitecore customers?
Certainly not every customer, that has Sitecore is trying to integrate commerce into their site, right? Certainly. But for many that did, for many that do, they were looking to other solutions. I think Insight Commerce was a common go-to-market partner for Sitecore. And I think that so for them, if you're a Sitecore customer and you were looking for a commerce server, I think for a commerce play, this is going to be one that down the road we're going to see it probably come in 2014. I don't know exactly what the roadmap is, but we're going to see it come in 2014. There's still lots of good opportunities out there for you, but I think you're going to be able to stay in the Sitecore family, and that's a really good thing.
Headline number 2 on CMS-Connected. I'm Butch Stearns, along with Scott Lewer beside me, Digital Clarity Group. Our headline number 2 has to do with OpenText and Project Red Oxygen, and maybe a little bit of a change of course for OpenText, if you will. The hype is over. No more multicolored streaming lights, no more feel-good instrumental music each time a new speaker is introduced, and no more Orlando, Florida from Enterprise World. A lot of us are back to a 20-degree reality away from the 2013 OpenText World Enterprise Information Management Conference. For OpenText, reality means unleashing its new enterprise information management software suite, Project Red Oxygen, now through March, and hoping it lives up to its conference billing and hype. Why is this a change of course, if you will, for OpenText?
I think it's a significant change of course for OpenText, and by the way, one that we predicted on here when we talked about their hiring of a few key players, and Shea is one of them. So he came to them last summer, I believe that it was. So OpenText was previously known, and sometimes the butt of a number of jokes internally within the industry, because they were known almost as a holding company, and they focused far more on financial analysts than us industry analysts, because they were just trying to make those numbers. And so they made a lot of acquisitions of companies that were kind of in their prime, and then they'd milk the maintenance revenue. And that's, there was no apologies about that. That's who they were. I think what we're seeing now, though, Shea has come aboard and really decided that he's going to streamline this. He's going to create an innovative company. And so this is the first real significant shift. They've been talking about it for a while. They've been working on a number of the pieces to try to bring those together. But I think we're really seeing them start to sunset some products and raise awareness on some other ones and pull together a unified now platform. It's not there yet, but their idea, even just the talk of it, frankly, is a huge step for OpenText, because they just weren't about that before.
So they're talking about it. you put in perspective why it is a change, of course. You talk about how they're pulling together different suites. And when you look deeper at this story and what Project Red Oxygen is all about, it talks about suite by suite, a content suite. It talks about
process suite, experience suite, information exchange suite, and discovery suite. So there's all of these disparate parts that they had before, trying to pull those together in some way.
So talk on to another. Talk about another focus on this. How OpenText focuses on CIOs.
Yeah, so I think that's the other big issue here. Is I think where all of the other industry, the Adobes and the Sitecores, like we just talked about, and the other competitors in this space, have very much been focused on the CMO. And Gartner's put out research that said that the CMO is the next, is going to be buying more technology by whatever date than the CIO is. And very few have really focused on kind of the strategic CIO. And I think we see from OpenText here a real investment in the CIO, basically saying there's a lot of unstructured information within the organization. There's kind of gold in them there are hills, and let's go figure out how to mine it and put it into processes where it's relevant and tap into that, so that you can be able to create that, get that value out of the information that's sitting throughout your organization. I think what starts to happen is you really do see, though, more pressure on them now facing other kind of quote-unquote enterprise players, the IBMs and the Oracles and that, who traditionally haven't done so much in terms of integrating their suite. They've also grown by a lot of acquisitions, the Oracles of the world. And now, if they really make this play, if they really make this turn, I think it's going to put pressure on them to kind of do the same, fall in line.
Let's move on to our next headline story, which is sort of two parts here. And this one is goodbye WYSIWYG for web CMS. I got the industry
Good job, look at that.
WYSI-WYG, why...
Which is what you see is what you get. But the
what you see is what you get.
WYSIWYG, right?
CMS platform provider SetSeed CMS thinks it offers a better alternative to what you see is what you get based content management in its newest version. SetSeed 8 has an all-new interface, improved mobile experience, new APIs. It avoids problems caused by what you see is what you get CMSs. This is what company representatives claim. And Ben Vallack from SetSeed is going to join us momentarily. Your quick comment or thoughts on the significance of this and what SetSeed is saying before we bring Ben in.
WYSIWYG was introduced in the CMS world maybe 10 years ago or so to make the experience for end users much more Word-like, Microsoft Word-like, so that I could change the way that the content looked in right there. I can bold it, italicize it, all that stuff, so it would look much more like it's going to be consumed. The challenge that it presents in an omni-channel world now, where there's not just one output to the web, but basically outputs to mobile and all this, is they all handle that differently. And so the point is that should be left kind of maybe to the presentation layer to deal with. And what they're trying to do at SetSeed is kind of get us back to prior to that notion of WYSIWYG and kind of get back to purity, so that you create in a more kind of generic sense and then let the various channel output add on that kind of look and feel, the creative side of that, and do with it what it wants to. I think that poses some challenges, but we'll talk with him about that.
Yeah, let's bring in Ben now. Ben Vallack from SetSeed. Ben, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Hi, yeah, I'm great, thanks, yeah.
Ben, what's your title within SetSeed, and tell us about your focus?
I'm basically the designer and developer of SetSeed, so yeah, I've built it from the ground up, really. I used to do a lot of web design, and I built it really to solve the problems that other CMS had when I was building websites for my clients. So yeah, one of the big issues was pasting in content from Word and it breaking the page just because there's just way too much design overlap with WYSIWYG type editors. So what I built was a system that rejects that notion and is much more sort of procedural and interactive in the way it works. Yeah.
So is there a need? We've all, all of us who have been hands-on in the content management world have felt the pain of trying to copy and paste from Word, certainly. And I would, admire anybody who can figure out how to fix that problem as easy as it sounds like it would be. But help us understand why you had to take it back even further than that. Like, you're actually not just saying we're going to make it easier to do that. You're actually just saying, heck with it all from the scratch. Let's just get back to kind of dealing with pure content. Tell us about that.
Yeah, basically, what you've got to do to make pasting from other applications work is actually deal with a plain text editor. So what we've done is come up with a way of using a plain text editor in a much bigger overall system, which I call the blueprint editor. So, you double click an item, then it goes into plain text for that item. And then the rest of the whole system that you work with is all drag and drop and fully interact with all the other content that you can create in the system. So yeah, it's bringing it all back, and actually the way you work with then your page is it's going away from the idea of having a fixed template with little boxes that you drop content into, and instead working with a whole page, but dragging and dropping content and structural items all in the same system, and then just seamlessly swapping between your plain text editor when you actually want to make changes to individual text items. So the experience works really well, and it's really fun to use as well.
So is it fun for you as a developer? I mean, it sounds kind of like a purist take on this. What's the reaction from the business users at the end, who are the ones, by the way, driving the likes of the Drupals and everyone else to kind of take on this notion of inline editing and those sorts of things? They've kind of all turned towards this because of the challenges that were felt in trying to sell their products, that they weren't kind of sexy enough, didn't look easy enough. What's been the reaction from your customers? Are you able to sell this?
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of appeals to both the developers and the end users, the content editors. Obviously, the content editors get a much more robust experience. They see stuff break a lot less than if they were using a WYSIWYG system. So it appeals to them. And of course, it really appeals to the designers because their designs don't get broken. So yeah, it works really well. And obviously, the purists are sort of perhaps would reject the idea that we've got actually a live preview in our system as well. But I think the live preview actually bridges that gap and makes this sort of, system much more approachable. So it's an easier step from a WYSIWYG-based system to ours because, the live preview gives that sense of security and familiarity with how it looks. But you are actually still working with this radical new approach.
We're talking with Ben Vallack of SetSeed, and we're talking about a better way to improve your content management system. You talk about the benefits with this, Ben, saying that it, ideally is aimed at improving the user experience and reducing the need for customer support. Talk a little bit more about that. How is it doing that?
Yeah, I mean, it's primarily creating a system that doesn't break. Pasting from Word obviously being the primary example. You get extra code element that breaks everything. So you have to go back to a plain text system to prevent that. So yeah, when you've got an end user working with SetSeed, there's the separation between the content they're creating and the actual designs that are built by developers using the theme system. That separation is robust enough that they can happily add content and nothing will break. The developer's not going to come back to the site in a couple of weeks' time and see that the content editor has made everything red and italic and they're sort of forced to use the styles that the developer creates. Okay. So yeah, it's much more robust for everyone.
And then so one point then I like the idea that you can see the live preview. Just quickly, how do you end up choosing which one? If this is about solving the omni-channel problem, then that means there are kind of lots of outputs. And so which one do you decide to show?
Yeah, that's a great question. Obviously, with the live preview, it's kind of essentially dependent on the width of the system that they're using. So on an iPhone, the live preview is toggleable. It's not actually live. You have to swap to it, but it's instant at that point. On a bigger screen, it's side by side. As you can see there, it's showing up on the right. So that's, whatever size you've got there available, that's the sort of level at which the preview operates. So obviously, it's not sort of revealing all the different channels that it could be displayed on, but it's enough to give the user a sense of familiarity and context as they're working in the blueprint editor on the left. It's about making it a bit more accessible than just doing away with the live preview. Because obviously it would be nice, perhaps, the purists will say, yeah, forget the live preview altogether and really embrace it. But obviously what we're about is making this approach, accessible to the end user who isn't necessarily really into the technology. It's giving them a viable alternative to WYSIWYG systems, which they'd obviously see as being familiar and may go towards. So it's coming up with a system that actually works, can be sold to these people.
So Ben, again, I commend you on your passion and the spirit all behind this. I mean, again, in your opinion, WYSIWYG systems can be too rigid at times. So hammer that point one more time. The goal of all of this was to make the customer user experience better by giving them more options, but also with an eye on simplicity also, hasn't it?
Yeah, essentially. I mean, actually, in a way, you could look that we're actually sort of taking away options. With a WYSIWYG system, they've got sort of full control over what font size, what color, and when you're dealing with web content, that's almost too much control for the end user. They're not designers. Obviously, the web designer is the designer. They're the ones that come up with what font size, what color the different headings should be, and then it's a content decision as to whether or not their text should be a heading, subheading, paragraph. So that's the decisions the content editors are making. So SetSeed reinforces that distinction in between content and then the presentation, which is handled by the theme developers.
He is Ben Vallack at SetSeed. Ben, we thank you for joining us on CMS Connected today.
Thanks very much for having me.
All right. So Scott, let's for our next headline, let's sort of comment a little bit more, get your comments on this. You were quoted in a CMS Newswire story about this, talking about WYSIWYG systems and their capabilities and inline editing and all sorts of challenges to the age-old desire to separate content from presentation.
Yep.
You called it an important strategy in an ever-increasing dynamic omni-channel world. Mm-hmm. But you also went on to say that those systems sell well and they've become table stakes for all product sales demonstrations. Yep. So anti-WYSIWYG products tend to be more oriented toward purists and, as you were going with Ben, tech-savvy users rather than business users who are making more and more of the technology decisions these days. Are they doing enough to address the business user perspective? That's the real question, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is, it's a noble cause. I definitely agree. I like what he's trying to do. And he might have it, by the way. I mean, I do like the idea that you can preview this at the same time. That might solve the issue. But I'd say that, talk to the folks at Acquia Drupal, who are really all about, or the Drupal team, who is all about kind of create the inline editing so that they needed that in order to sell. Any one of these companies, I know that the customers are there trying to figure out how easy is this going to be, and shifting back to fields to go enter my text in is not going to look simple, even if it kind of from a purist standpoint fixes the problem that WYSIWYG creates. So I don't know. I feel like good luck to him. I don't, I'm not so sure that that's going to
Yeah, you want to see it.
Really
You're
well.
from Missouri on this one.
You got it. Exactly.
Tell me state.
That's right.
All right, let's go to our final headline, news item number 5, the omni-channel experience. And when it comes to the omni-channel experience, forever we've known, brands know, companies know that you got to be there. You got to be where your customers are. Companies of all shapes and sizes have been expanding their online presence. They've been setting up profiles across all kinds of digital media channels so they can be where their customers are. But according to this article on CMS Wire, and according to a new Zendesk survey that examined the omni-channel customer experience, it shows that while companies are going there, when they get there, the majority of them are not doing it right. A whopping 73%, again, according to the survey, of consumers think that companies are paying more attention to generating sales across multiple channels than delivering a consistent and seamless customer service experience.
Yep. It's true. It's, again, customer experience is not just shouting from the top of the hills on as many different platforms as you can. I mean, what we've done is we've gone and automated and given a whole bunch of tools to go and tell people, hey, by the way, it's not just your website. People want to hear from you on Twitter and on phone and in person and all these sorts of things. And we've told people there's more than one channel to this, but what they've only done is just gone and said the marketing team has embraced that. And marketers' idea is to go just push out information and go tell about their products and their capabilities. And at this point, customer experience is not just about pushing out product information, but it's actually, and this is what we've talked about at DCG a lot, is it requires a full shift within the organization. It's quite an organizational change. You cannot just go start talking on these various different outputs if you're not ready to actually interact on them. And I think what this was talking about is that yes, people hear from you more on Twitter, but then when they try to use that same channel that you just promoted to them on, when they try to tell you about their customer experience issue or their help desk ticket or whatever, and you don't respond, then you've actually heightened expectations and thereby made them even more annoyed, frankly. So
those are our headlines here on this edition of CMS Connected, the web content management industry's only news commentary show. Time to move on now to one of our interview segments to dive deeper into today's topic. Today's focus is marketing automation and uncovering what the driving forces are behind the explosive market that will grow, according to some, to $4.8 billion by the year 2015, and how organizations specifically can harness the power and the flexibility of automation in order to execute better campaigns and generate more revenue with less manual effort. With that said, let's bring in our guest for this segment. He is Thom Robbins, Chief Evangelist from Kentico CMS. Hello, Thom, and welcome to CMS Connected.
How are you? Great to be here.
Great. You should be a little bit more enthusiastic to kick things off, Thom.
I'm trying. I'm really trying.
You're always enthusiastic. So let me start with the dumbed-down question, if you will. The term marketing automation, what is it? What is marketing automation? Give us your definition of it.
Sure. I think it's a great question. I tend to think of marketing automation and understanding it really lies in looking at your lead generation process. So marketing automation solutions are designed to support marketing professionals as they create, they run, and they manage their existing campaigns. It's also important to remember that marketing automation is designed to support a company's marketing team, not replace it. There's some great examples by Focus Research, which basically said 81% of companies say their number one reason for wanting automated sales platforms is to close sales better. You think about that, and you're going to use an automated solution to go ahead and manage that so you can free up the time so that your marketers can focus on other things. You also look at some additional scary data by Marketing Sherpa, which said 61% of B2B marketers send everything to sales, but something like 27% of those leads aren't really qualified. So marketing automation comes in and it allows you to solve that, or to begin to solve that problem. So I think of it across a couple of pillars. First is automation offers the ability to manage your revenue and to manage your performance. Second is establish a core set of standards between sales and marketing. So holding that conversation between the two, because if sales is throwing a lot of leads over the wall and marketing can't close them, you've really got some big issue. The other is the ability to quickly profile customers. And then obviously the last, I think, is to kind of help drive traffic through the sales funnel quicker. So that's my high level definition.
Awesome.
hey, Thom, Scott Lieber here. How are you, man?
I'm good. How are you?
It actually looks sunny in Seattle today.
It is. It's a beautiful day.
Well, yeah, since it's so rare, you might want to get off the show and go get out there and enjoy it a little bit.
That's afterwards.
So question for you, just a follow-up to the first one. Why is it so relevant? Here we are on a kind of a content management show. Why is it relevant these days to talk about marketing automation in this context of content management? Folks like yourselves at Kentico have taken this on, and the kind of walls around CMS have expanded into marketing automation pretty normally by most vendors. Why is it that you see these two conversations kind of coming together?
No, it's a great question. So what tends to happen, I think, is the CMS industry 10 years ago was all about, I don't want to know HTML, I want to build pages. Now what we're seeing is this transition happening. Customers are expecting more. They're expecting us to deliver more out of the box. So they're saying, hey, we need things like personalization, we need things like marketing automation. So we're seeing that fundamental CMS industry start to grow into shape and really become more than what it was even 10 years ago. So a customer who has just a static brochure website is really not getting the most value out of it. He wants to take that and kind of move it up a couple of notches. So I think that's where the evolution of the industry becomes so important.
So, Thom, let me jump in here again. So, if marketing automation, as you said off the top, I love the way you put it, is about lead generation. If you think of that in that perspective, and also another key point you made was that it's not replacing your marketing team; it's supporting your marketing team. You talked about this, but let me ask a follow-up so you can dig a little deeper. Whether it's an enterprise level company or whether it's SMB, how can marketing automation work specifically? What are some of the immediate benefits that I'm going to see when it starts to get implemented?
No, I think that's a great question. I tend to think about the benefits based on what you expect. So marketing automation is really defined to look at your set of sales process. So the immediate benefits are what you're expecting. So for example, I expect it to help me grow my web traffic. I expect it to help capture leads. I expect it to help me nurture leads. I expect it to create a positive handover of sales, from marketing to sales, and then obviously report. So what the benefits I think that I'm really going to get is the ability to create a better approach for my sales organization and my marketing team to really build that out so that they can kind of take their marketing to the next level, be able to provide measurable results at any point in the campaign, which is something that as marketers we love to do, but we really can't do.
Interesting you said that. A quick comment from you on that. It's a better approach when done right, right? That's Thom's statement that he made there. So if that's the case, what are some common reasons why organizations might be reluctant to use obviously I want more qualified leads. I want more traffic to my website.
Yeah, sure.
I'm just talking about within my organization here, the Pulse
sure.
Network. I want to provide more meetings for our salespeople.
I think the reluctance is only really, I don't think once people know and understand what marketing automation can do for them, I don't think that there tends to be a reluctance to kind of go down the path, right? I think it's typically seen as maybe that kind of 201 level of sophistication like Thom was talking about. There's an awful lot of companies that are out there that just kind of have a website that they go and put up. And then the question is, okay, now how do I start to get a little bit more interactive? How do I start, and I've started to blog a little bit. How do I get that message out, and how do I go reach out to some of those customers or those prospects rather that I'm talking to and be able to kind of take that conversation a little bit to the next level? And I think there's not really reluctance to want the benefits of marketing automation. I think it's just maybe how do I take that first step? And so what I like that Thom and some of the others that Kentico and some of the others have started to do in this is they've taken those folks who they already had in terms of a captive audience that were looking to systems to manage their websites and actually given them out of the box the ability to go and take that conversation to the next level. That's why I like to see these come together.
If I take you literally what you said about a better approach, that sort of implies that you need to adopt marketing automation as a strategy. If that is the case, why are organizations reluctant to do that, and if so, why?
No, I think it's a great question. So where I tend to see the problem is that there's a cultural shift that has to be created in the organization. And like any project, you need kind of the executive helping drive that. And there's two big issues that I've tended to see. The first one is in traditional marketing, everything's very campaign driven and linear, right? We're going to do A, then we're going to do B. We're going to talk to these channels. We're going to do lots of press activities. Marketing necessarily isn't as accountable for generating a set number of leads. And it becomes kind of hard as we kind of pull that down. So what we can do is we can create that culture of accountability using marketing automation, which is a shift in how we think about it. The second is that marketing organizations need to become process driven. So as marketers, I'm very focused on creating this super powerful set of collateral and campaign material and then pushing it out, but I'm not so driven by the process around it. So taking that compelling creative and then being able to drive it into different areas. So marketing automation allows me to create a process around it, which is hard, and it's a cultural shift. So I think the big things really to think about is this idea of driving a different culture in an organization is part of the issue that I've seen.
Hey, Thom, so help us. I hear from a lot of folks that they refer to kind of email management or email automation synonymously with marketing automation. Is one a subset of the other? Are they in fact the same thing? Can you clarify?
No, I think that's a great question. I tend to look at them as different. So I would say that how you're going to nurture that lead can be any number of ways. And I don't know, I think about it in terms of a bunch of features that are needed. And I would think email is definitely a piece of it, but there's lead capture forms, there's behavioral analysis, there's all sorts of other features I think that are needed within that. And I tend to look at what are the channels that I want to communicate with that customer. Email is certainly one of them, but I want to get them to come back to my site. So personalization becomes another big piece of that as well.
Follow up from me, Thom. Why would some marketing automation strategies underperform? Is it a combination of things like staff training, software limitation, workflow development and planning? Why are some underperforming?
You know, it's a great question. So when I tend to think about staff training and software limitations, I tend to look at that as a vendor issue or an RFP issue, meaning they pick something and it may not have been the right solution or it may not have helped them actually solve it. Where I tend to see it is on the straight up process planning piece. And really what happens is in kind of two areas. One is organizations aren't process driven, so they're kind of building the entire world or boiling the ocean, as I like to call it, rather than starting small with some key wins and then kind of building out from there and creating that essential way that the organization can go ahead and take advantage of the process. So I talked to some CMOs last week who were just moving to marketing automation. And what they were realizing is that they needed to think about their existing process and then how they were going to document it, because it might be, well, we've always done it this way. So they need to think about that and then also streamline the process. So the biggest thing, start small, get some small wins, and then grow from there.
Big run on marketing automation systems and vendors for a while here, right? We've seen Exact Target be snatched up, and any number of them. There's 5 or 6 in the past, I don't know, year and a half or so, mostly from these kind of content management vendors, and we've seen these two worlds collide and come together. Why do you think, as coming from a vendor that actually built one from the ground up, right, and built this capability, why do you think it's so compelling to have, for these two forces, to have these together and included in a suite? What are some of the kind of content advantages of these two systems being together and part of one?
So, as you know, Kentigo, as you said, we built it from the ground up. And we approached it that way for a couple of reasons. One is because we felt it provided a better integrated story for our customers. So we could integrate it directly in. Customers didn't have to worry about different APIs. They didn't have to worry about, different user interfaces. They didn't have to worry about different security requirements. When you rolled out the solution, you didn't actually have to, have the IT department bring up multiple servers. All the data was shared. We just felt it a better integrated story, and it was a lot easier for our customers to roll out the product. I think what I tend to hear when you're looking at this integrated angle or the best of breed is that customers are thinking that, well, gee, I've got the one system and I need to get additional features out of it. So that's typically where they would look to grow that out. And I think it can be really fraught with problems, as I said, and it's something that as a vendor who built it from the ground up, we were looking to make it easier for our customers, and we felt it was a natural evolution of what we were seeing in the industry, and it was something that customers were expecting us to do.
So Thom, let's go right back to the beginning of this interview. By the way, you're watching CMS Connected, the web content management industry's only news commentary show. We're talking with Thom Robbins from Kentico, and we're talking specifically about marketing automation. Off the top of the show, I mentioned that by 2015, many people expect this explosive marketing automation, to grow to almost $5 billion. Talk a little bit more about the driving forces, the business drivers behind that. I think we all understand the general ones. I don't think every business has the same needs in this day and age, right? They want more traffic to their website, but they want more of the right people going to their website, the people that find their products, their services, their solutions valuable to them, right? So everybody wants more qualified leads. That streamlines the process. That brings the inbound part into it, as opposed to people that are still living in their head in the sand and in the old school part of it. But why, in your opinion, is that stat correct? Why is marketing automation going to grow to a $5 billion industry? Is that true?
I think that may be a very conservative estimate. I think marketing departments want to be able to predict the outcomes of campaigns. They want to be able to predict the outcomes of what they're seeing for their marketing spend, right? Nobody wants to go to their CMO or their VP or their CEO and say, give me $1 million and yeah, maybe I'm going to give you, what you're looking for. People are looking for that accountability, so they're really looking to drive that. And then when you start extending that into what just consumers look at when they go to sites, or businesses go to, and you look at that convergence. So things like personalization are becoming key, and how they're going to drive that through things like marketing automation, personalizing my experience, A/B and MBT testing, being able to drive that experience and then drive that through to the customer on the end, giving them the best experience and then getting the best outcomes. So I think that as the channels, specifically channel segmentation, and as channels continue to grow, people are going to want to know and be able to predict what they're seeing in those campaigns. So I think 5 million, or I think the number you have is probably very conservative to what we're starting to see.
So how about this notion of, everybody wants to talk big data, small data. There's a lot of these questions around data, and we know that personalization is certainly dependent on that, and that's something that, is really the kind of next level of all of this, and the whole idea of marketing automation leverages some of that. So we talk about this, improving the customer experience, and when we think about marketing automations, I usually think about kind of prospects, a sea of prospects out there, communicating with a sea of prospects, getting them to the top of that, filling the top of that sales funnel, right? How can we, though, use our folks today starting to be able to put some of the data to use that we have about actual customers and those prospects to be able to actually improve the customer experience? So not just kind of pushing people towards a prospective sale, but can we actually improve some of that customer experience as well through marketing automation? Is that something that you seek to be able to do for folks?
Absolutely. So I think we're seeing that the merge is coming, where all of this is incredibly important, and being able to provide the best customer experience, whether that experience is being driven through, as you said earlier, email, or through being on the site. So personalizing my experience. So when I come in, taking the data that's known about me or the data that I've shared, and then be able to provide that experience and then score that. So the next generation of this, I think, that we're starting to see is being able to take that entire behavior analytics, so create that persona, be able to run some data analysis over it, and then be able to bucketize people, so personalization becomes much more built in. I mean, personally, I think 5 years from now, personalization is just going to be something that's expected, and it's going to be driven by the data as we start to collect more and more of this data that's out there. But yeah, I think you're right. I think as that company, as any company looks to better their value that they're seeing and control that marketing spend, they're going to want to personalize and leverage the data that they have.
So Thom, before we let you go, because you're so passionate about this, because you live it every day, because you're one of our favorites, let's give you the chance to talk about why. Why are you so passionate? What are you doing and what's Kentico doing that's a difference maker in the market today?
No, we appreciate that, and we always love working with you guys. So Kentico is currently in the process of moving towards our version 8 release, which we're incredibly excited about. I mean, I personally, it's the biggest and the best release, and I know vendors always say that, but we have recently brought up, about 2 years ago, brought up our UX team, and we've been working with the industry and everyone across there to come up with what I'm going to call one hell of a user experience to make it easier for people to get in and get going. We're also in the process of expanding out our e-commerce offering. You know, Kentico had built in e-commerce for years, and we're starting to see that we need to expand that offering. So we're listening to customers and continuing to grow. So our difference continues to be that we're customer centric. We love the fact that our partners are so passionate about everything we do, and it's the thing that helps me get up every morning.
Thom, last question off topic, because you just said something that I just want to really get your take on. We just talked about Sitecore's acquisition of Commerce Server, and you just mentioned the Commerce. Did you see that as a shot across the bow from Sitecore to Kentico, and they said that they were the first enterprise-grade .NET solution, CXM solution with Commerce?
Absolutely, I saw it as a shot across the bow, and you know, quite honestly, Kentico's been in the enterprise for at least 5 years. So, you know, we're marketers, right? We get to say what we want, but the truth of the matter is Kentico has fully integrated e-commerce. We've been integrated for, I don't know, 9 years. We've got some great enterprise wins. So I welcome the second .NET CMS with e-commerce into the enterprise.
Awesome.
Oh, Thom Robbins from Kentico. Thom, we thank you for being a guest on CMS-Connected, talking about marketing automation. And it was one hell of a user experience for us having you on, Thom, all right?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, that is Thom Robbins. He should be a little more enthusiastic about what he does.
He should be a little bit more enthusiastic.
You know,
you got to find some way to keep your spirits up when you're in rainy Seattle all the time.
How about those 2 softballs we both threw him at the end there, right?
That was great.
All right, time for us to take a quick break on CMS Connected now, the web content management industry's only news commentary show. When we come back, Marianne Kay of Digital Clarity Group is going to dive deeper into WordPress. She'll be reviewing the most used blog tool in their category, WordPress. That's coming up next on CMS Connected, so stick around.
I got this Google Chromebook as a gift from my mom. I brought it in today, hoping to get enough cash out of it to get to Hollywood.
Hi, how can I help you?
Hi, I'm looking to trade in this gift for a ticket to Hollywood.
What makes you think it's worth that much?
It's a laptop.
This is the Google Chromebook, a relatively new kind of device. Because Chromebook applications are web-based, when you're not connected, it's pretty much a brick. That's a major drawback. A traditional PC utilizes built-in applications like Office and iTunes that work even when you're offline.
You see this thingy? That means it's not a real laptop. It doesn't have Windows or Office. Without Wi-Fi, it doesn't do much at all. And when you are online, Google tracks what you do so they can sell ads. That's how you get scroogled.
Scroogled? What's a scroogle?
Google is always trying to find ways to make more money off your personal information. This Chromebook hardware makes it even easier for them.
Not going to Hollywood, am I?
Not with a Google Chromebook. You might get to Reno.
Unfortunately, I can't buy everything, especially when it's not what it appears to be. And this is not a real laptop. I'm not buying this one. I don't want to get scroogled.
Well, I was hoping the guys would take this thing off my hands, but I appreciate how honest they were. Scroogled. Who knew?
Welcome back to CMS Connected, the web content management industry's only news commentary show. Time now for our In the Spotlight segment. And in our In the Spotlight today, we are going to review the open source platform WordPress. Many of you know it, you love it, you embrace it because you have it. How do I know that? Well, WordPress is used by over 18% of the web and has been incredibly successful and risen from a handful of users to the most used blog tool in its category. The secret force behind WordPress is a company called Automatic, which was founded in 2005 by Matthew Mullenweg. Automatic sites reach over 500 million people every month, making it one of the largest sites in the world. And joining us right now to review WordPress from across the pond is Marianne Kay, Web Content Management Strategist, Analyst, and Consultant at Digital Clarity Group. Pleased to have you on the show, Marianne. Hello, Marianne. Are you there?
Hello.
How are you?
Hi, Butch. I'm great. Thank you.
Tell us about
Great
WordPress.
to be here with you today.
Give us an overview of WordPress. For people that don't, and it's got to be nobody out there, so I'll ask it anyway. People that don't know what WordPress is all about, what is WordPress? What's so great about it, in your opinion?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind when I hear about WordPress is exactly what you mentioned. It's just how unbelievably popular it is. It's the most downloaded open source CMS. It's used, as you say, by more than 18% of the web. Historically, it started as a blogging platform 10 years ago, but it has grown very rapidly and now addresses a range of content management needs. It runs on PHP and MySQL. It's truly and completely open source. All the core functionality is free, and there are lots of plugins and themes that are free as well. WordPress has an active and vibrant developers community, which means that the functionality and the themes stay on top of modern web design trends and best practices. It is a great system.
So you talked about the community, you talked about some other benefits, but what are some of the features of WordPress that really stand out for you, Marianne?
Well, the major strength of WordPress is ease of use. It's very easy to set up. You go through what's called a 5 minutes famous installations, and you're ready to go. It's really quick, and then you go to dashboard to work on your website. And the default setup, the WordPress out of the box, is very easy to use. Anyone who's computer literate barely needs any training to add and edit pages and posts, and you can add categories, tags, preview changes, save your page in a draft state, and so on. And if you're ever stuck, there are lots of tutorials and articles and videos available on the net to help you out. And then there's the presentation layer, the design of the website that you can control by changing the WordPress theme. There are a few standard themes out of the box, so you can download free themes or buy commercial ones. And that's basically the extent of the out-of-the-box WordPress. But you can customize it further by adding plugins and widgets, and all the basic needs, like if you need a photo gallery, or you need to post ratings, or you need sharing on social media, all of this has been already developed by somebody else, and so you can grab a plugin and use it straight away. There's a carousel, jQuery, carousels, e-commerce, anything. And one other thing that is worth mentioning as well is exceptional SEO friendliness. So websites that run on WordPress are ranking very well in Google and other search engines. It's not to say that WordPress will do it for you. You still need to create and update your content.
Right.
But WordPress is the kind of technology that helps you with that instead of being an obstacle to work around.
So WordPress is an open source platform. It's used by nearly 1 out of every 5 people on the web. It's the most used blog tool in its category. But Marianne, when is WordPress not the answer, not the right solution?
WordPress is a poor fit for asset-based rather than page-based websites. So websites that are not easily associated with pages and posts from editorial maintenance point of view are difficult to run on WordPress. For example, e-commerce, large retail websites where you have lots of products, lots of product categories, prices, product descriptions. You don't imagine that from the back end as a collection of individual pages and posts, and try and fit it into the WordPress interface would be really difficult, and it would be very time consuming too.
Top competitors for WordPress in the marketplace, who are they? What is it?
Most often WordPress is brought as the first CMS, not as a replacement. So it's used very often for a new project or an isolated departmental need. And in that sense, it doesn't always face a competition as such. But it's most often compared to Joomla and Drupal. So Joomla and Drupal would be the ones.
How about companies, the type of companies that should be giving WordPress a look? Your thoughts on that?
Well, lots of companies, big and small, use WordPress. There's a page, Notable WordPress Users, on WordPress.com that lists well-known brands that is using WordPress. There are a few scenarios where WordPress seems to be a particularly good fit, and that's marketing departments with specific needs, like online campaigns or short-lived promotional websites, charity and non-profit organizations, schools and universities with very decentralized content editorial model, startup companies and individuals, actors, musicians, celebrities use WordPress a lot.
So sum it up for us about what's next for WordPress. I would imagine when you have an open source platform like this that's used by so many people, you talked about the type of companies that use it, you talk about the individuals that use it. I mean, you're reaching over 500 million people every month with this. You've constantly got to keep up with the needs, or all of a sudden you're out of business if that's the case. So how do they do that? Look into your crystal ball for us, Marianne. What's next for WordPress?
In terms of the actual product, the software, what's certainly on the cards is ease of use. That's an ongoing battle. There are changes to the interface constantly done around drag and drop and navigation and how to make the editing process easier, even easier than it is now. And then there's this global admin search across all the areas of their content assets, across comments and posts and pages, rather than individually having to go into each area. That's on the cards as well. Focus on mobile is still important and will be for years to come. And WordPress is a community-led project, so that comes with a set of challenges. Community projects can become reactive, can lack in clarity of vision and focus excessively on fixing existing problems instead of looking into the future. So that's something that we need to keep in mind. But at the moment, WordPress continues to grow, and we are looking forward to an even better WordPress in the future.
Marianne Kay, Web Content Management Strategist, Analyst, and Consultant for Digital Clarity Group in our In the Spotlight segment here on CMS Connected, reviewing WordPress. Marianne, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
All right, Marianne Kay. All right, Scott, so I have a WordPress blog. Yeah. I'm familiar with it.
So and it doesn't extremely popular, I'm sure.
It doesn't make me unique, obviously. 1 out of every 5 people on the web is using WordPress. WordPress, business perspective, though.
Yeah.
What is the future for WordPress? What did Marianne say that resonates with you?
Yeah, I think actually there are some in the WordPress community that are struggling with that a little bit. I mean, there was a lot of talk a couple of years ago, and I don't want to reignite it now, about kind of is WordPress a CMS or not, because it grew out of the kind of as a blogging platform, and many were using it to run full-on websites. And the question, kind of from purist standpoint, was an argument.
How do you answer that question directly?
I think that it is. I think it is, especially now in their 3rd version. They've really done a lot to kind of add the management capabilities that one assumes to be there. But that said, as Marianne talked about, a lot of WordPress is this. Is a number of plugins and a number of modules that are created by the community. So I think the thing is when you evaluate WordPress, you're evaluating not just WordPress, but a much larger ecosystem of modules. And so you can't just talk about WordPress, the platform. You're talking about WordPress, the ecosystem, and the community. And so that's what tends to make it difficult for the larger enterprises to adopt it, because I mean, it doesn't necessarily support today the complexity that many larger enterprises have, but let's just say that parts of it do. You are dependent on an ecosystem of people that manage any number of them to manage the various plugins that you might be completely dependent on. At Digital Clarity Group, we use it as well, and we have lots of pieces assembled together that are all on various roadmaps, some of which have been abandoned and lost, and it's a huge issue. And so I think Certainly to deal with your blog, it's going to live long and forever. I think, though, much like the way that Drupal has gone through this shift where they've basically decided that they wanted to own more of those enterprise deals, you have Automatic. Matt Mullenweg started a for-profit part of the business, which basically founded WordPress, and they, much like are kind of very similar to Acquia is to Drupal, Automatic is essentially trying to guide the roadmap of WordPress, and they're trying to guide it more and more to the enterprise, but it is extremely dependent on the community. And so they are going to grapple with, to what degree do we go kind of create more complexity in the underlying, the WordPress out of the gate, WordPress core, versus to what do we kind of still lend, make available to the community to go and build up in the way of modules and things.
All right, so one final comment on this. It seems to me that, one of the benefits of WordPress is it's an easy point of entry. It's open source. So many people give it a try, but a lot of people stick with it. But again, from a business perspective, part of the challenge is to stay updated. You said there's a version 3 now. To continue to meet the needs. It's meeting the needs for Digital Clarity Group. But going forward, does it get to a point where you consider that WordPress isn't my answer now and you have to go forward?
I think everyone kind of goes to this point where WordPress is kind of generally an entry-level CMS and you kind of grow out of it. And the question is whether they, at the Automatic team are satisfied with that or not. It seems like they're trying to go after more and more of the kind of larger enterprises and say that they can be their solution as well. I'm not quite sure why. I don't know that it necessarily needs to be. I think it can hum and do quite well exactly where they are. But at some point, this for-profit business has to make a lot of money, and where is the money at? It's sitting in the large enterprises. So thus far, they've left a lot of that money to be made up to the ecosystem of, small service providers who support both the modules and plugins as well as do the implementation work.
You ready for rapid fire?
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Let's do
Really?
it. Yeah. No, well, not really, but we're going to do it.
Okay. Let's get right to it then. Time now for the ever-popular award-winning. How many awards have we won now, Kyle, for rapid fire? How many awards?
At least 3 today, by the way.
10 billion. No, time now for rapid fire, where we put Scott on the clock and give him 60 seconds to make sense of these stories. And we start with Salesforce. And Mark, is it Benioff? Is that how you pronounce it?
It is Benioff, yeah.
Mark Benioff. He admits failure. Seems like it was only yesterday when Salesforce Mark Benioff thought enterprise social was all that and a bag of chips. He waxed eloquently about the connected enterprise. Trouble with Benioff's vision was that it was so centered around Salesforce ecosystem, it left out everyone else. Make sense of this story for us, Scott.
Yeah, sure. I love headlines. Headlines are great. They caught your attention, right?
It did.
Admitting failure, I'm not so sure, but it is a little bit of a shift of direction. I think what Marcus was come to realize and publicly said is that social is not a strategy. Social has never been a strategy. Social is a means to an end, right? And so I think what he's basically started to talk about now is the shift away from just focusing purely on social to this notion of what he calls the Internet of Customers, which is, if you're familiar with the term the Internet of Things, this notion that there's this kind of interconnected group of things out there, and what he's saying is that at the other side of each one of those things is a customer. And so he wants to put, like many are doing today, kind of focus on outside in. He wants to put the customer at the center of his business, which is a noble cause, and it's easier said than done, as we've seen and talked about with a lot of these things. But I agree, social is not a strategy. It's a good move.
All right, for our second rapid fire headline, we talk about Alfresco, and we go to an article by Ron Miller from Fierce Content Management that talks about the recent Alfresco summit that was held in Boston. And according to Ron, he gets the feeling this company is poised to take off, Scott. Talks about their high-energy, assertive new CEO and Doug Dennerlein, who sees the potential in a new company to this point that's flown under the radar. Do you agree with this premise that Alfresco is ready to take off?
I guess when I won't say necessarily ready for takeoff. I certainly know that they've pulled in an awful lot of industry talent who I respect a lot. Kathleen Reedy, Lawrence Hart. They've brought in a number of I don't know Doug Dennerlein, but they've brought in an awful lot of good talent from the street of folks who are really well respected, have hands-on experience in this space. So I certainly like that. I think we've seen a significant shift in Alfresco over time. Coming from the time where they started, John Newton started them coming out of Documentum, where essentially just wanted to go and create an open source Documentum, where it seems is what it seemed. It's what it seemed to the outside. we've seen them certainly focus more and more. So they just about a year and a half ago, they shed where they wanted to try to be kind of a web content. They wanted to be all things to all people. They said they were not a web content management platform. And now we've seen the ecosystem mature. Things like Crafter start to pop up from Rivet Logic. Now we see them trying to focus on simple and simplicity and things like that. And I think that we're going to see that continue to shift. And I'll talk about this in another story when we talk about Lawrence Hart's piece on this.
Our next headline and next story or event we're going to focus on is the Gilbane Conference. For a long time, the Gilbane Conference has been an industry leader, bringing experts, content managers, marketers, technology, and executive strategists together to share experiences and explore the most effective technologies and approaches to help enterprises build agile, sustainable digital experiences. Gilbane Conference still as relevant as it's always been, still growing with what's going on?
Yeah, the Gilbane Conference holds a near and dear place in my heart, as I had a lot to do with this conference for years, being the chair of what we called at the time the engagement track. So the Gilbane Group, which was formerly an analyst and consulting firm, is no longer an analyst and consulting firm and now just focuses on, Frank Gilbane, he focuses on running one really good conference per year, and that conference is coming up this year in Boston. It actually kicks off tomorrow and lasts for 3 days. They're reversing the order a little bit this year. They're putting the first 2 days with kind of the focus on the conference part. The last day is going to be the workshops. But they have 4, I'll read them off to you. Content marketing and the customer experience is one track. The second one is on content collaboration and employee engagement, kind of looking inside to how do you collaborate internally with employees. The third one is reimagining the future, technology in the post-digital experience, I think is a good one. And the last one is about digital strategies for publishing, which is where Frank got his start, was in the publishing world. It's been around for a while. It's going to continue to draw attention, and I think it's a great conference to attend.
Our next rapid fire story here talks about content audits, and according to the author of this story, not a good idea. Talking about Jerry McGovern, a content management author and consultant, and in a recent post he had in CMS Newswire, and he goes on to say that when dealing with a large, complex, old, and out-of-date website, a content audit can be a waste of time and money. He points recently to an organization he dealt with that had 100,000 pages on its public website. It was vast and unmanaged, and shortly after the web team began a content audit of the site, it became very clear it was going to be an extremely time-consuming and expensive exercise, and also a wasteful one. Do you agree on the premise that a content audit is mostly wasteful?
So Jerry McGovern he certainly gets my respect and a lot of others. He's been out there for a long time in this space, especially he was focused on intranets for a long time, but he has this notion that he talks about, which is top tasks. And he was kind of revolutionary in this as an idea. It did get a lot of attention or traction for a long time, but I think everybody has come around to this point that the focus is, look at who your audience is and look at it as why are they even coming to your site in the first place? What are they trying to do? And focus on those top tasks. Ultimately, if you're able to help them achieve those tasks, then you're going to be most meaningful and you're going to have content that's focused on helping your audience. Certainly, this is what we talk about when we think about customer experience and putting the audience at the center. His point here, I think he goes a little bit extreme. In the article, he talks about going from 100,000 pages to 97,000. I don't know how you figure out those 3 unless you look at all of the content. So I certainly agree, though, that big, huge slashes in cutting off content is a really valid strategy that oftentimes you end up finding yourself doing and cutting that down. But the point is that you certainly want to be smart about it, and just deciding to start over is not a good idea, especially on the external web, not on an intranet where you lose all sorts of SEO and challenges. So
for our next headline and our next story for Scott to comment here on Rapid Fire, it's focus on content and forget about management. We go back to Fierce Content Management and Ron Miller, and Ron says that recently he was at the Gartner IT Symposium, and when the topic of enterprise content management entered a presentation, he repeatedly said that the word enterprise was a dangerous word and led to more problems than it was worth. So we need to focus on the content and forget about management completely?
So this
Aren't there people behind this?
This is part 2 of the alfresco story that I mentioned, and they're definitely linked because one of the folks who I told you was a recent hire by alfresco is Lawrence Hart, a friend of mine in the industry. who's been doing implementations in this space for a long time and came out of the AIM organization just prior to this one. He knows a lot about what he's talking about. Here it kind of continues that. The reason I say that is because that focus that Alfresco has on simplicity and streamlining the user's experience and stopping focusing on things like tagging and adding metadata and that sort of stuff is, his point is that's not what anybody tries to do. They're trying to just manage and publish content more so than they are trying to figure out how to, they're trying to just publish content more so than they are wanting to manage it. I think it's a kind of a silly semantics game though to say let's not talk about management anymore. Ultimately, we do need to streamline that. We do need to figure out how to accomplish the same end, which is to allow people to go and find and retrieve that content and publish it easily while not inundating them with management focus. I think that's his point, and I think if we can lead the way, Alfresco, if you can do it, good on you.
Our final story to comment here on CMS Connected in our rapid fire segment for Scott comes from a colleague of yours, Tim Walters, on the Digital Clarity Group blog, and he talks about enterprise and mid-market and what they really mean for CMM. Traditional market segmentations by gross revenue or by number of employees are useful, Tim says, for sizing a market and calculating technology spend, but what does, quote, enterprise, mid-market, or SMB really mean for software solutions? Tim goes on to say, and give the example, say you work for a large company with over $1 billion in revenue. You should look for, quote, enterprise software solutions, right? Or say you're a vendor that sells to large companies. By definition, you offer enterprise applications, don't you? Well, not so fast, states Tim Walters. When it comes to what counts as enterprise or, quote, enterprise level, the criteria are extremely muddled. How much of this is semantics of what Tim's saying, or how important are these distinctions?
Yeah, I think this is actually, I really wanted to, I was the one that had the idea to go and write these papers because I really wanted to clarify this, because these terms, we've seen this on 3 or 4 times already on this show today. Even Sitecore, when they qualified that they were the first enterprise grade, it gets used by marketers a lot and then therefore gets reused by customers who think, well, I also want to be enterprise and so therefore I have big needs. So the terms get thrown around an awful lot without much definition. And the reason that we wanted to clarify that is because it really isn't about enterprise. Typically connotes the size of the organization, their market cap of their amount of revenue, and it has zero to do with what solutions they need. What we're really getting down to here is mid-market and enterprise tend to connote the complexity of the processes that they support. So the larger quote-unquote enterprise systems typically need to support more complex processes in terms of the technology they provide, whereas mid-market don't necessarily. So, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you can't have a large enterprise company with very mid-market needs, right? So
nice.
That's the point.
And you can find that on the Digital Clarity Group blog.
You got it. That blog.
I got a
that
bonus
a
rapid fire question for you.
Hit it.
All right.
Yeah, as if I wasn't ready for the first
By the time
6.
this show airs,
Yes, sir.
okay,
Which
it's
is
already been live
immediately,
on demand.
Yes.
Right. The bonus rapid fire: Florida State, Ohio State. Who wins the national championship
Florida
and
State.
why?
Florida
Why?
State.
Because producer Kyle McNaught is a former Seminole?
Not at all.
Oh.
Although I would love to see him do something with that big, huge beard. Can we get a shot of Kyle, by the way? But
Thank
not
you
just because
for-
I'm a Georgia guy. And
Thank you for being a part of this latest episode of CMS Connected. For our guests, Thom Robbins, Ben Vallack, and Marianne Kay, we thank them for being contributors to the show. We also thank our sponsors, as always, Falcon Software and Digital Clarity Group, who help bring you CMS Connected, both live and on demand. Don't forget to tune in January. Check out CMS-Connected.com for the exact date for the latest show. We'll be tweeting it out here from the Pulse too, drawing attention to it. But in January, we'll do our annual predictions, trends, and hot topics show. You're working on this already, aren't you?
Of course I am already. I'm always working on it.
Nice
should
job.
I do the tomahawk chop now?
No, don't do the tomahawk chop. Nice job.
All right,
Don't
thanks for that,
forget,
too.
get connected and stay connected with CMS Connected. See you next time.